And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast is back as we take a look at some of the divisions now after the draft, post-draft division futures for everybody out there. How did the draft change the betting odds for the futures? We'll get into that and more right now with Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast, who joins us here on a Tuesday edition of Football at 4 on the Sports Bash. Welcome back, Adam. What's going on, my man?
Yeah, good to talk to you, Mike. So, yeah, we did these before the draft. Now we'll do them after the draft. And then it's funny, the schedule comes out on the 14th. Now we know who every team knows who they're going to play, but they don't know the order of the games. So we'll probably do these again closer to the end of the club's off-season programs. The Eagles are typically done first or second, usually done around mid-June, so we'll probably take a look at them again then. But, yeah, it's interesting because the Eagles are still, when you look at the divisional races around the National Football League, it's like the Bills are the biggest favorite, but the Eagles are right up there.
Real quick, before we get to these, I do want to get a couple quick thoughts. Britton Covey, they non-tendered him. He's obviously gone. He signed with the Rams. That leaves a opening for the punt returner. Last year was Cooper DeJean. They signed Avery Williams. It looks like that will be, and Williams probably has the inside track on that now that Britton obviously is with the Rams.
Yeah, so when you look at that situation with Britton Covey, he had the neck issue. We put this out, a month before they made the decision that it was unlikely, based on what Covey's RFA tender number would have been, that they would tender him. They wouldn't tender him. He'd become an unrestricted free agent, free to sign anywhere. But see, the thing is, and Jeff and I have talked about this for a while over the years with players, you got to be able to contribute to do more than one thing. You mentioned we'll transfer over to Avery Williams. Well, Avery Williams could return punts and kicks, and he also could be a slot receiver. He could be a running back. He's sort of in the running back room for now. But Nick Sirianni, the Eagles head coach, really hinted at him, Mike, at the owners' meetings. He's got a big role in mind. So Avery Williams, who actually got more guaranteed money than A.J. Dillon did in his contract, he could have an interesting role here going forward.
Wow, that's I didn't know about the guaranteed money stuff. So, yeah, just to put a bow on Britton Covey, nice dude, by the way. Met him at the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Always had some interesting things to say. Sometimes got himself into some trouble a couple times.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember you and I were at one of the Super Bowl.
Arizona.
Yeah, meter. Yeah, and then I remember that he said, was it on your show?
Yes.
He said something. I said, Mike, could you tell me what he said? Because it created a social media firestorm, and he was so outspoken. I know some people said, well, he's a punt returner. He shouldn't really be saying anything. Now, he also, Covey, by the way, could play slot, but with the Rams, by the way, the slot receiver plays a pivotal role. It does not in Philly, so the Eagles cannot justify bringing him back.
All right, so Covey's out. Williams would be the favorite there. DeJean, They don't want him returning punts again, correct?
No. Look, when they get to their off-season program here, and Nia Smith, by the way, could absolutely return punts. He did in college. Nia is a slot receiver. This is what hurts him. He's going to need to do more here. But remember, Mike, he missed so much time in their off-season coming back from the broken foot, so he's got a lot of room to make up here.
All right, let's get into the post-draft divisional futures and how the draft maybe changed some of the things here. We'll start in the NFC East, Giants, Cowboys, Commanders, and Eagles. No team has won this division 2 consecutive years since 2004. The Eagles won it 2001, 2, 3, and 4, so they dominated the division in the early aughts, but are they ready to do it 25 years later and finally end this crazy streak?
Jeff and I have talked about this one for 5 or 6 years. I remember the first time someone told me this, and I'm like, this can't be true. I looked it up, and I was like, wow, how the futility. Now some years later, it's still true. We're going on 21 years here. So the Eagles are minus 175 from the books, and what that means is if you bet 175, you get your bet back and you get 100 back. So you got to give up a lot of juice here. The Commandos are plus 225. Now, on this divisional note, Mike, that would be the smart money. Remember, the Eagles lost 5 defensive starters. They're young though on defense, but that's a concern. The Cowboys are plus 800, and the Giants, Mike, longest odds of any team in the National Football League to win their division. They are plus 3,500.
Yeah, it's interesting. Plus 3,500 that they're the longest shot out of everybody. But I think that says that they got 2 teams in the division that are really, really good. The Cowboys are plus 800. Do you have any interest in sprinkling a little there?
No, I would not. I don't gamble, but I do. I do live. I get asked about these a lot on Sports Grid, so I talk about them. I'm going to give you kind of what I think. And I always say, if you like a favorite and the odds are very reasonable, and we'll do the over-unders, Mike, by the way, in a couple weeks. I always say get on them early, because what happens is the hype teams, if you're on a sleeper team, right? If you're on the Commanders this year, that's a good number, plus 225. If enough gamblers know, or people who put money on these things know, Mike, about this divisional note, that no team has won it in 21 years, or repeated in 21 years in the NFC East, wouldn't you put down? You're getting major plus money at plus 225. You bet 100, you get your bet back plus 225. So yeah, it's pretty good.
All right, in the North, you got 4 teams that I think are all interesting. They all can say we can win the division. I don't think there's a team that maybe if you want to throw the Bears, but new coach, they feel like they're a part of this. The Packers, the Lions, and the Vikings all made the playoffs last year. So the NFC North, very interesting to handicap.
Yeah, the Lions, I think part of it, Mike, why they're actually in plus money, they're plus 120. They have 2 new coordinators. We saw what happened last year with the Eagles with the pretty significant changeover. It didn't work. You know what happened?
I don't know if you saw what Brandon Graham said yesterday on why he thinks the team is going to be okay, even though they lost so many guys. He said because they didn't lose any coaches. He said the year before we lost all these coaches. That was a big deal. This year, all the coaching staff is back on the defensive side.
Well, they did. Well, on defense it is, but on offense,
yes. He was talking about the defense, that they lost so many guys on defense, and he said, well, we have all the same coaches back.
That's true. But getting back to the Lions here, they're plus 120, 2 new coordinators. That does worry me. Ben Johnson's now staying in the division. He's the Bears head coach. The regular season, I always call the Packers the regular season champions, and then they choke in the playoffs. They're plus 280 to win their division. The Bears are plus 425. The Vikings are only plus 475. It's J.J. McCarthy's never played in an NFL regular season game, and they're only plus 475. That does surprise me, Mike.
All right, that division's going to be fun this year. I think that one's definitely one to keep an eye on. One that has been kind of the division where the Bucs, the Falcons, the Panthers, and the Saints. You got 2 of the worst teams in football in the South, but you might be surprised, listeners, at who is predicted to bring up the rear in the South.
Well, the Bucs are plus 110. To me, this one you jump on early. They've got now. The one issue is they have a new offense coordinator, Josh Grizzard, who's never called plays. They keep changing these coordinators, and these. Dave Canales was their OC for 1 year. He gets a head coaching job. He's coaching the Panthers in the same division. And then Liam Cohen, he gets to be a head coach after being the OC for 1 year in Tampa. It's kind of crazy how things go. So they're plus 110. The Falcons are only plus 2. They're only plus 220, Mike. This is the first year of their new quarterback. So, as you know, Kirk Cousins is no longer going to be the starter. Michael Penix, the lefty, by the way, he's got a great arm. Not fleet of foot, but he could spin it. He's got a great arm. They're plus 220. Panthers are plus 550, and the Saints, the mediocre Saints, I call them stuck in neutral. It's like they don't know what they want to be. They're plus 800.
Mickey Loomis, longtime GM down there. Of course, Kellen Moore is the new head coach. They are the long shot in the South at plus 800. Down in the West where, man, what's up is down, what's down is up. The Niners did not make the playoffs last year, but are they the favorite to win the West?
I don't agree with this one. Let me go through this one because this division is so wide. This is the most wide-open division in the National Football League. The Niners are plus 140, and they're the favorite to win the division. The Rams, I don't know why. Now, I know they have interest in bringing Jalen Ramsey back. They're really bad at corner, but other than that, they're pretty good. The Rams are plus 165, and the Cardinals and Seahawks are both plus 600. The Seahawks are every year we got to come up with a sleeper team. They're my sleeper team. Sam Darnold now a quarterback. They have a relatively young roster. They're very athletic at a lot of positions on defense. need a little bit more juice at receiver. They got to get some, but they're a team that could run the football. They've invested their offensive line. I like the Seahawks at plus 600 to upset the West. That's
okay.
Look, again, you got to find a long shot.
Value there. Well, we know, and I'm sure we'll do a segment on this somewhere down the road. There's always a team that goes from last to first.
Yeah,
Which one of these teams is it? I don't think it's the Giants. That could be the Bears, maybe. Panthers, they were worse in the South last year. And then in the West, all those teams kind of bunched there. Let's go to the AFC side. And, wow, you talk about heavy favorites.
Yeah.
This might be the heaviest favorite in the entire league, and I think it is. Buffalo at minus 300, and the Jets are a major long shot here.
Mike, I would have the Bills. If you and I were making a line, my line would be the Bills minus 500. They're minus 300. Dolphins are plus 550. Patriots are plus 550. It's plus 750. By the way, before the draft, the Patriots were actually favored to finish in second in the AFC East, depending on which book you looked at. Patriots are plus 750. Jets are plus 1,500. So Dolphins plus 550. Patriots plus 750. Jets plus 1,500. The Bills are the biggest lock of all the divisions. They shouldn't be challenged. The Dolphins are stuck in Mediocreville. And, yeah, it's such an easy division for the Bills to win.
Just think about, though, if you're a Jets fan. Last year, there were Super Bowl aspirations with for the last 2 years. The last 2 years with Aaron Rodgers, and now they're plus 1,500. They are worse odds than the Patriots are right now.
That's embarrassing. That's a good point, Mike. That's bad.
All right, North, very competitive division. A couple of years ago, you had 3 teams in the playoffs. Last year, you got 2, but a lot of people like the Bengals. Cleveland can't seem to get out of its own way, although just 2 years ago they were in the playoffs. And now, wow, plus 3,000 for Cleveland, but the rest of the division seems pretty tight.
Yeah, I like the Ravens at minus 135. Now, the Bengals are plus 200. Those are kind of narrower than I expected. They've changed defensive coordinators. Al Gold, you might remember the former Temple head coach. He's been a head coach before in college football. He's been an assistant with the Lions. Now he's going to run the defense for the Bengals. Their problem is offensive line and pass rush. The Steelers, without Aaron Rodgers as of now, are plus 600. I wonder what will happen if Rodgers does finally sign there. Will they be in minus territory? Probably not, but I would put them probably at plus 200 or plus 150 if Rodgers does sign there. And you mentioned the Browns with Joe Flacco. But Joe Flacco is the clear favorite to win that job, but he hasn't won it yet. That job with 5 quarterbacks on the roster, the Browns are plus 3,000.
All right, that division there, the North should be fun. The South, which is kind of, maybe the least publicized division in all of sports, the AFC South. You got pretty wide open here. I mean, I think last year Jacksonville and Houston were kind of the favorites. Jacksonville, completely disappointing season. Could give them a little bit of value here if you like them to bounce back.
I call it, Mike, it's funny. Growing up, remember the NHL North division?
Yes.
For hockey, I call the AFC South the North division, if you're old enough to remember. It's just very mediocre. The Texans are plus 100. That's my second favorite one in terms of ones that should definitely win it. The Texans are plus 100. The Colts are plus 320. Jaguars plus 333. What an odd number that is. And the Titans, now they've improved their roster. They're plus 800. The Texans, they've got the best roster. Now, the only problem that I have with the Texans, they traded their left tackle, Laramie Tunsil. They cannot get their offensive line right. That does concern me. That's an issue for me. That's the one big issue they have right now, the Texans do, to win that division, but they're still the clear favorite.
All right, got one more to take a look at here, the AFC West, which is home to the AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs, and obviously they have dominated this division for quite some time. But are the teams gaining on them?
Yeah, the Chiefs are only minus 150. Look, Travis Kelce, he's near the end. Mahomes, the last 2 seasons, not enough explosive plays. They didn't run the ball particularly well last season. The Chargers came out of nowhere. They stunned me, Mike. I definitely missed on them. I missed on them on the Broncos like the odds makers did. But the Chargers are plus 310 to win the division. If you're looking for long odds, that's a pretty good one. Someone to finally dethrone the Chiefs. It could happen. It wouldn't shock me if it happened. The Broncos are plus 425. They came out of nowhere last season. And then the Raiders are plus 2,000 in the remake with Chip Kelly as the play caller and Pete Carroll as the head coach.
Yeah, the West, who will be the team that finally usurps the Kansas City Chiefs, who have owned that division? Won't be the Raiders, it looks like, at plus 2,000 odds. All right, there's a look at the odds post-draft, and, of course, that could change here as we get into the offseason with more things happening. Where does Aaron Rodgers go? Other moves and tinkers and tweaks to be made. But right now, your Eagles, Lions, Bucks, Niners, Bills, Ravens, Texans, and the Chiefs are the favorites. And, we always ask, which was one of these divisions where the team that finished worst last year can go to first the next year? We'll keep our eye on who is the team that can do that as well here on Football at 4. And Adam Caplan, of course, from the Inside the Birds podcast, joined us here on today's edition of Football at 4. All right, Adam, thanks, man.
Thank you.